Hello friends. Once upon a time in ancient Greece, there was a handsome young prince named Theseus, the brave son of King Aegeus of Athens. Now, Theseus was renowned throughout the land for his courage and his intelligence. And he was also very compassionate towards his people. And then there was the Minotaur, a fearsome monster that lived on the island of Crete. The Minotaur was a strange creature, half man and half bull, with the head and tail of a bull and the body of a man. And this beast was kept in a great labyrinth, a huge maze-like structure made of high walls and winding passages. No one could remember how many passages there were or where they all led. Now, the reason for the Minotaur's existence is a long and complicated tale, but to put it simply, it all goes back to an old feud between King Minos of Crete and King Aegeus of Athens. And as a result of that feud, King Minos demanded that every year 7 young men and 7 maidens from Athens be sent to Crete as a sacrifice to the Minotaur. This went on for several years, and so the people of Athens were very upset. But their pleas for mercy had fallen on deaf ears. Then, one day, when the time came for the next set of sacrifices, Theseus, who had heard about all the horrors of the Minotaur, volunteered to be one of the youths taken to Crete. Despite his father's, King Aegeus, worry and concern for his safety, Theseus was determined to end the horror and free his people from this terrible fate. So, when they arrived in Crete, Theseus begged King Minos to let him slay the Minotaur. However, King Minos refused and instead took Theseus down to the labyrinth to meet his horrible demise. But what King Minos didn't know was that the labyrinth had been designed by the skilled craftsman Daedalus, who had also designed the famous maze at the palace of Nasus. And according to some versions of the myth, Daedalus had given the secret of the labyrinth to Princess Ariadne, the king's daughter, who had fallen in love with Theseus. And so, before taking Theseus into the labyrinth, she gave him a ball of thread, which is now known as Ariadne's thread, and told him to hold onto it and follow it closely. Then, when he had killed the Minotaur, he would simply follow the thread back, the way he had come, and escape the labyrinth. Then, with a heavy heart, Ariadne watched as Theseus bravely entered the labyrinth, unrolled the thread as he went deeper inside, knowing that if he didn't do exactly as she had told him, he would never get out. And deep inside the labyrinth, in a dark and dank chamber, the Minotaur lay waiting. It was a terrifying beast, all snarling teeth and dripping claws, and it charged at Theseus, knocking him over and trying to slash him with its deadly hooves. But Theseus was quick and agile, dodging the Minotaur's attacks and stabbing at it with his sword. And after a fierce struggle, he managed to kill the beast. Then, taking a deep breath, Theseus began to retrace his steps and followed Ariadne's thread back to the entrance. And soon he was leading the other youths out of the labyrinth and away from the island of Crete. Then, as the ship sailed away from Crete, Theseus and Ariadne decided to flee together, and they set sail for the island of Naxos. However, in some versions of the myth, Theseus left Ariadne stranded on Naxos, and she was later found by the god Dionysus and made his wife. But as Theseus sailed back to Athens, he forgot to change the black sails on the ship to white, which was the signal to his father that he had returned safely. When King Aegeus saw the black sails, he assumed that his son was dead, and, overcome with grief, he threw himself into the sea, and thus the Aegean Sea was named after him. So friends, this was the myth of Theseus and the Minotaur. And the main lesson we learn from this myth is that even when all hope seems lost, courage and cleverness can prevail. Theseus had remembered to change the sails on his ship. Perhaps King Aegeus would still be alive. But fate had other plans, and the world would never know the great king that Theseus could have been. So what did you think of the story? Do let me know in the comments section below. And also, if you liked the story, then make sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. And thank you for watching.